Hi, I'm Hannah Grace Sucharita Injamuri, and I'm a PhD student at Garrett-Evangelical Theological Seminary with concentration in Christian education and congregational studies. I had this wonderful opportunity to TA for Theology of Evangelism class in spring 2024 with Dr. Teasdale.
As a TA, you'd have the opportunity not just to see the other students who are learning about evangelism, but also to learn about evangelism yourself, since that's your main area of study. Given that, how did your own thinking of evangelism change as a result of the webinars?
It is interesting to even understand this framework of how evangelism works. Before I joined the webinars or the class, it was an abstract concept. I knew bits and pieces of what evangelism meant or what a congregation understands it to be, but the webinars gave a structure to it, which I really appreciate, beginning with what is our starting point for evangelism, what is the theological reflection, what is the contextual awareness that is needed, and what would be a congregational strategy for it, where these wonderful ways to actually understand bits and pieces, but also dive into each one more intentionally. So I would understand with the approach of evangelism to be doing something to spread good news with abundant love and grace, but also what does it mean to evaluate or discern what that meant in these four concepts was very helpful. One of the things about the evangelism webinar was that people have entered into the room with mixed emotions or trauma that they may have carried with what evangelism meant for their concept, and a lot of the work that the webinars did was reconciling with what evangelism meant to individuals, but also the congregations in the community. And so the dialogue helped people find some middle ground, even if their approach is different or understanding is different. How can they interact with each other to come into this understanding of where I see where you're coming from, and I come from this, and I think we can have a meaningful conversation and dialogue in this space. So I particularly appreciated the space that was created and the methodology used for this space to be created, especially with the contextual awareness becoming a more prominent aspect of this. One of the things that was fascinating about these webinars is I'm a Mennonite, and I had colleagues and peers who came from different denominations, not just predominantly Methodist, and that is a very helpful space to have an interdenominational dialogue too, to have a better understanding of what evangelism meant. And also people come from diverse backgrounds as well, outside US context, and evangelism for people in different contexts, different countries mean something different. And so having this opportunity to come to one space and talk about this, I think gives a platform for people to redefine what evangelism is, but with a more inclusive and diverse approach that can be taken into their context. And I think that was the beauty of the space and the webinars and the class, that the dialogue or the exchange can again give a lot of opportunities of areas of I see this context, but what can be applied to my context and to my congregation? What can be taken back? So I thought that was a very interesting but also helpful area.